Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Anam Madhani and I am a final year student of Masters in Audiology and Speech and Language Pathology from University of Karachi. So today this presentation is about a study that I have conducted and it's a summary of that study. So the topic of the study is personal perceptions and perceived public opinions about stuttering among adults in Karachi. This is an exploratory study, so let's have a look at it. Before we start off, let's have a look at the content of this presentation, which includes the introduction, which will have a little bit of literature review, some studies related to it, previous studies that have been done. Then we'll have research objective, scope of the study, research methodologies. Then we'll have some results, some conclusion, recommendations, and then limitations and future directions to this study. Let's start with introduction. But wait, before we go towards the introduction, let's have a look at glossary because I'll be talking about some terminologies in my research presentation. So you all should be aware of those glossary or the terminologies. So whenever I talk about PWS, it's basically person or people who stutter. We all know what is stuttering. Stuttering is a fluency disorder. It's a speech disorder in which there are concerns related to normal fluency as well as flow of speech. Then stigmas. I'll be talking a lot about stigmas because stigmas are something which is main component of this research. So stigma is basically a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstances, quality, and or person. Then personal perceptions are those perceptions or that understanding that is basically what you think about it, what the person personally thinks about the questions that are going to be filled. And public opinion is basically perceived public opinion is basically what other people think, what I think that other people think. That's personal perceived public opinion. Let's go towards introduction now. So as I told you that stigmas are there, we all know now what is a stigma. So stigmas basically, that's a procedure, that's a process that is called stigmatization, which basically involves all these stigmas. And then what happens is that certain trait or a condition becomes linked to a negative social identity, and so stereotypes or stigmas are formed. Up till now, I'm sure every one of us have heard of certain stigmas or certain stereotypes that we have grown up with. So these stereotypes basically ends up in a very sad thing, and that sad thing for me is that there's an acronym for it, which is segregation. It results in segregation, it results in avoidance, and it results in discrimination. And this itself, those individuals who have been stigmatized for certain reasons, they experience loss of status in society, and there are limitations, and they have reduced opportunities in their vocational life, in their academic life, and in their social life. So there have been studies conducted in not in Karachi, Pakistan, but in other countries, which basically tells us that there are a lot of stigmas attached to people who stutters, of which there are 3 studies that I have mentioned. And these 3 studies basically tells us that some studies say that people who stutters are perceived as less capable or less competent, and they're perceived as less intelligent than those who are not stuttering. They are perceived as being less employable than people who do not stutter, particularly in jobs that require higher speech demands. And also they are perceived as having undesirable personality, which includes timid, anxiety, anxious, non-assertive, and shy. So that's what people think in other countries. Since there was no such research in our country, in such, because our country, as far as all of us know, that we have a lot of stigmas attached to a lot of peoples. So we really need to know, I really needed to know what stigmas are attached to people who stutter. Why was it interest to me was because as a speech and language therapist, when we work, our scope does not only include, to work upon, one second please, yes, let me drag myself on one side of the screen. Yes, where, there is no word, there are no words that are being interfered. Okay, so I said that scope, when we are talking about scope, as a speech and language therapist, we does not only work with the communication participation of a people who stutter, of a person who stutter, but we also work upon improving their quality of life. And the most important part is that we work upon addressing barriers created by contextual factors. We are all aware of that iceberg phenomena that is usually associated with stuttering. So sorry. So whatever is under the iceberg, that is, so basically what we see is, we see an iceberg over the ocean, and that we can see from the naked eye, and that is basically the physical tension that the person who stutter has, their communication style. But what is underneath that ocean is the main cause of it, which is basically the barriers which are created by contextual factors. If we are not at all looking at those factors, we will never be able to manage stuttering itself. So in order to manage stuttering, in order to be successful in therapy, we need to address those barriers. And those barriers are those stigmas that are attached to them, which make them feel less confident and which make them feel less capable, or make them feel that they're not part of the society, which eventually heighten up their stuttering. So we need to address that for sure. That is why it was my area of interest. And I really wanted to see what people in Karachi thinks of people who stutter or a person who stutter, so that if there are some negative attitudes attached to this disorder, then anti-stigma campaigns can be made, and awareness can be spread out to people of Karachi or people of Pakistan. So this brings us to purpose and objective of the study. When we talk about purpose of the study, it's basically an ultimate intent of the study. And when we are talking about the objectives, these are some specific things that makes our purpose achievable. So the purpose of the study that I already mentioned was that it was to obtain quantitative data on personal perceptions and perceived public opinion about stuttering in order to identify foci to be included in the anti-stigma campaign programs for stuttering in Pakistan or Karachi. The objectives were to determine current public attitudes and knowledge about stuttering in Pakistan and the critical areas to address in future anti-stigma campaign. The scope of my study is to improve attitudes towards people who stutter and therefore reduce environmental barriers to their communicative participations, and thereby increasing their success in their therapy and their daily routine. The research method that I'm going to talk about involves these 4 components: participants, survey design, procedure, and data analysis. Let's have a look at the participants and survey design. My inclusion criteria included no personal history of stuttering or any other communication disorder in order to reduce the biasness. Age range is middle adulthood, which is 20 to 40 years. Correct answers on attention filter. What are those attention filters? I'll be talking about that in detail when we are talking about survey design. And my exclusion criteria is opposite to the inclusion criteria, which is whoever was falling into the inclusion criteria were added in the study. Whoever met the exclusion criteria were not added to the study and they were excluded. So exclusion criteria was personal history of communication disorder, more than 40 years or less than 20 years of age, and then incorrect answers on attention filters. The type of sampling I did was quota sampling. There were total 30 participants who filled out my questionnaire, who filled out my survey, and then 2 were basically excluded out of it. Why? That is because they didn't meet the inclusion criteria. That is why they were excluded. So my total participants were 28, out of which 14 were females and 14 were males. Talking about survey design right now. So survey design was a type of a questionnaire, and that questionnaire had different types of questions which involved multiple choices, check all that apply, ranking. So, and the validity of the survey was made sure by adding those attention filters. Now, what are those attention filters? Those fancy terminology. So attention filters are basically some questions that are to be answered in a specific way, and they were placed randomly in between the questionnaire, so that when the participants are reading that questionnaire, if they are reading it very carefully and they are attentive to it, and they're not just ticking that off randomly, uh, their attention scales or the attention filters read like, for example, um, choose only disagree for this statement. And then there are three options: agree, disagree, not sure. So they have to take disagree for that, because that's what it is supposed to say. It is supposed to be. Say, so that were attention filters. Whoever participant did not answer those attention filters correctly, they were excluded out of the study. The survey design was that the first page was like, it was a consent basically, which had description of the study as well. Then it was a demographic information, and then there were 11 questions in total. The questions were adapted from the Stigma Theory of Lincoln Fallon 2001 study, and the Stereotype Agreement portion of the Self-Stigma of Stuttering Scale 4S by Boyle was also included in the study. The procedure included that firstly, pilot survey was done on 6 adults, so that I have an idea that the questionnaire is fine, or if there are any errors, or if there's any if it's vague in some way. So 6 adults were they completed the survey, and there was no issues reported, so I moved ahead with that. Consent form was first explained to them. The description of the study was done, and then there were questions. It was filled either by face-to-face interview or by phone calls. It was supposed to be just a face-to-face interview first initially, but because this survey was done when COVID-19 started, so in order to maintain the social distancing, we shifted from face-to-face interview to phone calls. So we then started phone call interviews, and then we were marking the questions as per our participants who were asking us to mark them. The questionnaire took 20 to 25 minutes in total to get completed. Data analysis was done through summarizing the data, and then percentage system was done to summarize the results that we got from the questions of the questionnaire. Let's talk about results now. So that is something that I found when I was looking at it. So let's start with the first one: knowledge about stuttering. People had I was astonished to see that people had a lot of knowledge about stuttering. They have seen people with stuttering, and they also know someone who stutters. So that means there are a lot of stutters around us. So that was something good to know, that people knows what is stuttering, and they are not blown off by this term, what is stuttering, and I don't know what is stuttering. A lot of people knew. More than 80% people knew people who stutters, and they also have seen people who stutters. When I spoke about, or when I asked about the causes of the stuttering, 73% people said that it's because of the stress and pressure, and then 26.13% said that it's because of the mental illness. We all know that stress and pressure, it elevates the stuttering, but it is not the cause of it. There are certain studies going on, and people are still not sure of the exact cause of it, but it can be hereditary, it can be biological. They say that there are researchers that says that it's in the brain from birth, it's by birth. If you have stuttering, then it will eventually come in your life. At whatever age it is, it certainly comes. But if it's not there, then it's not there. But yes, it can elevate. It can be elevated by such components like stress and pressure, but definitely they are not the root cause of stuttering. Mental illness could be the cause, because if we are taking it as acquired stuttering, which is usually seen after aphasia, certain aphasias or neurological damage. But stress and pressure is definitely not the cause of the stuttering. It is one of the components that can increase it, but definitely not the cause. So people need to know this for sure. Personal perception about people who stutter in terms of jobs. Oh my God, that was something very heartbreaking to see. So people, the bars that you see over here, this is that people said that they are capable of doing these jobs. Okay, so not capable of doing these jobs. So 25 or 23% people thought that or said or stated that they should not be teacher, they should not be nurse, police officer, lawyer, physician, armed force, they should not be in armed forces, it should not be a salesperson, it should not be a cashier, radio announcer, speech therapist, it should not be speech therapist at all and radio announcers at all. They should not be physical therapists, they should not be financial advisor, they should not be school principal, they should not be college professor, actor, engineer. And only few people said that they should be none of these. So I mean, it was really heartbreaking to see that only firefighter job is available for them as per people's perception, their personal perceptions. Only factory worker. They can be a computer designer, they can be, or maybe a graphic designer, or they can be chemist, a janitor, or a mail carrier. Only 6 jobs for available for them. I mean, are they all suitable for only these 6 jobs? That was really heartbreaking to see. They are no less than they are no less than us. I mean, they are just like us. It's not about their intelligence. It's not about their personality. It's basically, they can work in any of this profession for sure. So this tells us that they have very, very, and very limited options for their vocational purpose. I mean, they are not at all taken in for any job. There are certain jobs that they feel that people feel that they should be in, and which is basically jobs which has low speaking demands. A firefighter, a factory worker, a chemist, a janitor, they all don't need to speak that much. Maybe that's why people think that, it's better for them to do it. But what about the high profile jobs? Can't they lead a good life by getting into the high profile jobs? That is something very heartbreaking to see here. Anyways, so personal perceptions about person who stutter, when we talked about stereotype agreement, when we filled that out. So the blue one says agree and the red says I disagree. So around 70% people agree that they are nervous. Around 80% people agree that they are self-confident. 100% people agree that they are capable. Wow. Less than 20% agree that they are incompetent. And that means that 80% people believed that they are competent enough. So that is interesting. As per if you are thinking about the previous researches that are done, and they say that they are incompetent, but over here the personal perception says that they are competent enough. Likewise, insecure or outgoing and shy. But over here, just if you can just see that thing, they're saying a lot of people are saying that they're competent enough, right? So they're disagreeing that they are incompetent, which definitely means that they're competent. If they're competent, why can't they be here? That is something to think about. Anyways, let's move ahead. Perceived public opinion versus personal opinion. Over here, we can see in blue, this is personal perception, and in red, it's perceived public opinion. So almost same answers on it, but just for example, in this one, they said that Blue says that the personal perception is this, that they are only less than 20% incompetent, but more, they are competent enough more. They just said that they're 20%, almost 20% incompetent. People said that way. But when they are talking about public personal opinion, this is how much they feel that they are incompetent. This is the indirect question, basically. So this was a little bit, obviously, definitely a controversial statement that they gave. And so they feel that capable is fine, but this is something very striking. Okay, let's move ahead. So conclusion. The survey revealed misunderstanding and negative perception toward people who stutter. We saw that. Especially when measured with indirect questions, we saw that too. They feel when they have been asked about their personal perception, they say that less than 20% said that they are incompetent, but more than 80% said that they are they're competent enough. But when they were asked about the public opinion about it, and they said that more than 80% think that they are incompetent, and only 20% say that it's competent. So, it says over there, it speaks over there that there is a discrepancy between what they think and what they think about what people think. So that is how we measured it. The findings from this study can help with the development of public anti-stigma programs for stuttering by identifying specific topics, areas that are important to address. The recommendations are that to plan and execute anti-stigma campaigns, keeping in mind the results. And the strategies could include interpersonal contact between people who stutter and members of the public. So, for example, sharing a person who stutters, sharing their stories to others, or meeting with them. Public education done by a professional organization contrasting myths versus facts. This can be done by presentations, by flyers, by making, informative materials, informative printed materials. Protest approaches that condemn and rebuke negative public remarks or actions toward people who stutter. This can be done by, public statements or by a press release, where these injustice or negative things can be spoken out loudly, that this is being done, and all of these things. Limitations and future directions. This is the last slide that we have. The limitations were definitely there. I had a very limited sample size for sure. There was lack of diversity. Considering Karachi or Pakistan, we have diversity in our society, in our country. So definitely lack of diversity was there. Reduced generalization, no actual responses by people who stutter. This was lacking in this study. It was only quantitative way of measuring or getting the analysis or getting the responses, but whereas qualitative would have been more better. Despite the limitations described above, the study was the first to ask both personal perception and perceived public opinion, and was first to be conducted in Pakistan regarding people who stutter and their attitudes, people's attitude towards stuttering. So this can be of a very much help for future anti-stigma campaigns, and for future researchers, they could address the limitations described above by utilizing different methodologies for gauging responses toward people who stutter. So that's it. Thank you so much for being my audience, and thank you for listening to my research summary, and take care. Allah Hafiz.